Hello. Have you bought the SHEHDS 250W zoom spotlight for a theatrical venue, only to discover that it's unusable due to the excessive fan noise? In this video I cover the process that I went through to replace the fans on my lights. Taking this action certainly invalidates any warranty offered on this product. This has been done without the manufacturer's knowledge. I took the view that if fixtures can't be used due to noise, they're fairly useless. The lights themselves are great units, with good color rendering for their price. They have motorized zoom and a very even field of beam due to the use of a good Fresnel lens. Just to be clear, this video does not represent a recommendation, it simply documents what I've done and why. By replacing the single 24-volt DC cooling fan with a lower RPM model of the same size, a noise level reduction of approximately 9 decibels was achieved. The noise level at 1 meter was reduced from 51 decibels to 42 decibels. While this is still not a silent light, it should be usable in most small theatrical venues. Slowing the fan speed obviously reduces the airflow. To counteract this, 3 actions were taken. The fan direction was reversed, so that the air is expelled from the top of the light. The fan was closely coupled to the heat sink, and the open sides of the heatsink were taped off to force all of the air through the hole of the heatsink. This project needs the following: long nose pliers, side cutters, small knife, scissors, number 1 Posidrive screwdriver, screwdriver for your long M3 bolts, 5mm hex driver, 4 nails 50mm long, 4 M3 bolts 90mm long, 4 M3 rubber washers, 4 M3 nylock nuts, 50 cm of insulating foam tape, 9 cable ties 2mm wide or less, 30 cm of self-adhesive foil tape, 50mm wide, 24-volt DC fan. Before starting out on this project, please ensure that the unit is fully functional. I tend to do this by connecting a DMX source to the unit and testing each function individually. I then sit the unit on a full power soak test for at least 30 minutes. During the testing you should see that the fan turns on at 35 degrees centigrade, according to the now temp reading. There is no proportional control, so the fan will be at full speed. I set the light up on a table with a soft mat to reduce reflected sound. The feet of the light were raised so that air could freely enter the unit. With the light in now temp mode, which turns on all of the LED emitters, the initial noise level was measured as 51.3 decibels at 1 meter from the light. There are only 5 bolt types used in this project: 8mm rail bolts with countersunk heads, 9mm bolts for metal panels with countersunk heads, 13mm bolts for plastic panels with countersunk heads, 9mm bolts for internal panels with pan heads, 22mm M5 hex bolts for the handle. When reconstructing the light, care must be taken to avoid cross-threading the small bolts. Remove the 4 panel bolts and 2 handle bolts in the rear plastic panel. Remove the 8 bolts that fix the rear metal panel to the side panels. Leave the 2 lowest bolts on the panel in place. Next, remove the small rail bolts indicated on the photo. Finally, remove the 2 lowest bolts on the panel. The whole panel should now come away from the main housing. Do not remove any of the bolts that hold the DMX or power connectors in place. Turning to the front of the light, open the barn doors and remove the 4 bolts that hold the front plastic panel in place. This will then come free with the barn doors still attached. It may be necessary to lift the barn doors slightly to get access to the lower bolts. Remove the 8 bolts around the edge of the front metal panel, holding it to the side panels. Do not remove any other bolts. The ventilated top panel slides out of the slots in the side panels. Along the bottom of the control board there are a number of connectors. From the corner nearest the external power con connectors there are an unused fan header, the used fan header, the LED emitter temperature sensor header. Unplug the fan and sensor wires by gently moving them from side to side. This is to allow enough slack on the wires for later operations. Raise the back of the light a little to allow the rear metal panel to drop. This should then allow the side panels to slide rearwards and completely off the base unit. Carefully cut away the cable ties that hold the cable loom to the side of the central fan assembly. Unscrew the 4 bolts that join the fan mounting plates to the central assembly frame. Then remove the fan and mounting plates as one, including the fan supply cable. Remove the 4 bolts that hold the left-hand side of the heatsink surround in place. This is the side that had the cable loom running along it. Determine the direction of airflow on the fan by looking for the indicator arrows on the outside of the fan housing. On the ingress side of the fan, place strips of insulating foam tape. This is to ensure a good seal against the heatsink and to provide some vibration isolation. Make sure that the foam tapes cannot foul on the fan blades, as this will cause a nuisance noise and may reduce the performance of the fan. Cut a strip of foil tape approximately 15 cm long. Carefully fix the tape to the side of the heatsink and smooth it down, making sure to go around the corners. Position the fan on top of the heatsink and temporarily fix in place with the nails. These should fit into the last heatsink vane in each corner. The fan supply cable should exit the fan in the position shown. Remove one of the nails on the left-hand side of the fan and replace it with one of the long M3 bolts. Try to keep the bolt vertical. Secure the bolt with a rubber washer and nylock nut. This does not need to be too tight, just enough to grip the heatsink. Repeat this process for the second bolt on this side. Replace the heatsink housing side panel using the 4 pan head bolts. Cable tie the wiring loom as shown. Use panel holes to retain the loom wherever possible. Ensure to include the fan supply cable as shown. Remove the 4 bolts holding the second side panel of the heatsink housing and take the remaining 2 nails from the fan mounting holes. Seal the final side of the heatsink with another 15 cm length of foil tape. Fit the last 2 long M3 bolts similar to the first 2 and secure with a rubber washer and M3 nylock nut each. Refit the heatsink housing side with the 4 pan head bolts. Refit the sides onto the base unit by carefully feeding them into the slots in the base. Reattach the side panels to the front metal panel. I found this easiest to do by locating the left and rightmost pairs of bolts first. Refit the ventilated top panel, ensuring that the wider unventilated section is towards the front of the light. Reconnect the fan and emitter temperature sensor connectors to the respective headers on the control board. Refit the rear metal panel, using the relevant bolts in this order. 3 small rail bolts. 2 lowest bolts attaching to the base unit. 8 remaining bolts attaching to the sides. The light can now be tested for functionality using the Now Temp menu setting. Once again, the fan should start when the light reaches 35 degrees centigrade. In this initial test I recorded a reading of 42.4 decibels. Reattach the rear plastic panel including the M5 hex bolts in the handle. Reattach the front plastic panel containing the barn door assembly. Retest the noise level and soak test. In this test I measured the noise level as 42.2 decibels, achieving approximately 9 decibels of noise level improvement over the factory configuration. Thanks for watching.